again, welcome everyone. Good morning, and I'm really glad to be a speaker at the French Summit, at the Power Platforms French Summit. Last year, I had this opportunity, and I was lucky enough to be in Paris at a conference organized by all these awesome communities together as well. It was iOS. I still have a shirt with the logo, with the old logo, legacy logo. So, well, even though we have now those hard times, we are still able to meet, well, virtually, but if you are courage enough, you can really openly talk and ask questions. I remember last year there was a lot of questions. There were a lot of questions, and je comprends French, français. Excusez-moi, un petit peu. Donc, vous pouvez parler en français aussi. Yes, there was a terrible accent, I know, but you have to trust me, I do understand a little bit of French, so I might be even able to understand your questions. Even more because they will be posted in regards of the topic. All right, anyway, of this chit chat anymore. So thank you very much for the sponsors, because I do organize conferences as well, and I know how much effort it takes to organize them, even though they're online. So thank you very much for supporting the communities. You are great, and keep doing this. Right, there's some information about the community. So if you are not aware yet who is organizing, where to find them on Twitter, and what are the web pages of our community leaders, well, here they are. And right about me. So the session today is about Microsoft RPA, and mainly about Power Automate Desktop. So the newest addition to the Power Platform, to this RPA stack that Microsoft is building for over a year, for over 2 years already, actually. And what this tool is going to bring us, and well, how it looks and how it works, and so on and so on. My name is Tomasz Poszytek. I'm coming from Warsaw in Poland. I'm Business Applications MVP. And just long story short, I'm working with all these technologies. I mean, not with RPA, but with SharePoint and Microsoft for over 10 years. This is my areas of specialization, of expertise, and the processes in general. The Power Platform is something I'm working for nearly, or somewhere around even over 4 years. So I still well, have a lot to learn, because this is a constantly changing platform and technology, but I think I know quite a lot. So if you have any questions, simply go to aka.ms/Poszytek, so this URL here, and there you will find all the hyperlinks to all social media channels I'm present at, so to my YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever, wherever you would like to find me and to connect, here, there are the links. And if you go to the YouTube and subscribe, then you will have an access and notifications about the videos that I'm now focusing the most. So not writing, but just recording the videos. It's much more efficient. All right. So the RPA. What is RPA? Now the audience should respond. What is the RPA? So anyways, the RPA stands for Robotic Process Automation. And this technology is not really young. So the whole story that made the fundamentals for RPA started around 16th century. Sorry, not 16. Gosh, 20th century, 60s of 20th century. So anyway, in 1959, the company we know already, IBM, was working very hard on machine learning technologies, and these fundamentals, I mean, that knowledge they built was then developed into artificial intelligence. And for example, it gave also birth to natural language processing technologies, so the NLPs. And these were this is the very important thing, not only in AI, but as well in RPA that we know today. Then in 1990s, the new functionality, the new technology was invented. So the technology that was allowing applications to scrap monitor data. So what is displayed on the monitor, application was able to get the information from the monitor, so like the print screen, and then thanks to AI, to machine learning, to NLPs, it was also able already to OCR to tell what is on that monitor. So well, actually to identify elements on the screen. And then boom, in 21st century, so when we reached the 2000 year, the companies that we know were starting to emerge. So in the year 2000, the OCR was invented as maybe not we know today, but again, the fundamentals of the OCR. And then in 2003, Blue Prism was founded, and then somewhere around that year, possibly maybe a year later, also emerged UiPath and Automation Anywhere. And these are the companies that are actually still the leaders. And for nearly 10 years, the term RPA was somehow abandoned. It was just shaded into dark. And then magically in 2015, I don't actually know why, but in 2015, this term just was brought to the visibility of and to the consciousness of all the CEOs and CIOs. And luckily for us, developers and power users, this technology hit the mainstream. And well, then it was still, and after that, it began to be again very intensively developed. So for example, in 2016, it was enriched with, again, enhanced machine learning, AI, OCR capabilities. And so actually 2016 gave us the RPA products that we are using today, that we know today. So this is a very brief history. And this 2015 and what happened later actually led both Gartner and Forrester to do their researches, and they realized that actually this market around RPA is really huge. So for example, Gartner is predicting that by 2023, this RPA market is going to grow to exceed $4 billion. And even though, according to Forrester and Gartner as well, we have these three leaders here, so Blue Prism, Automation Anywhere, you can see that there is still a lot of space for those competitors that are working on their products, which are often cheaper and which often are not really worse to what the leaders are proposing. What is also important here, you can find a company that is called Softomotive. And if you are carefully following the news from Microsoft, you know that in May, Microsoft announced that they have acquired that company. And so by acquisition of Softomotive, they also acquired a tool called WinAutomation. And this WinAutomation actually is the product that Microsoft then took, reshaped it, redesigned the interface, redesigned some technology in behind, connected it to the cloud, and now it is known under the name Power Automate Desktop. Still you can use WinAutomation. However, by the end of this year, Power Automate Desktop should be general available. So then WinAutomation will be slowly going into this obsolete version or being rolled back from the market. All right. Now, one more important thing is that when we are thinking about the processes, not only about the RPA processes, but as well about general digital processes, we have a lot of names that we're being hit, not only by the customers, but as well by the market, by the communities and questions and so on. So you have like BPA, DPA, RPA, SPA, APA. In the end, whichever term we're going to use in relation with this automation, there is one thing in common, that they all describe the technology or our approach to simply create a workflow, create a process from start to the end. So to connect all these dots and to create connected dots and to create a process that really delivers this business logic and follows our steps. So these terms actually means nearly the same. We're only automating different areas of our companies, of our software, of the, maybe not the process, but yeah, sometimes as well, the processes. Always we want to connect the dots and make the process running. Now, what are the benefits of the RPA? This depends actually on the company. Each company that is looking on RPA usually has on mind that they are looking for savings, that they are looking maybe to make their repeatable processes more efficient or more errorless, so to cause less issues. And also there are multiple benefits in terms of the employees, because if the employee is working on the same process over and over again, like copying data from Excel sheet to SAP or moving attachments from one place to another, these tasks for us humans are boring and in long term are making us frustrated and upset and not happy. So if there is a possibility to replace us with a bot that does this work much faster, much more efficient, and without the errors that we can do because we are still thinking on where to click and, well, if we need to click in that field, bot is not doing that actually, then this is also beneficial for the employees, because then employees can be moved to the tasks that are more demanding, require more knowledge, more skills, and simply give us more of this happiness that we are doing something productive and valuable. Also, when speaking about the RPA, there are two main modes that the RPA is working with. And again, in regards to the company that we are choosing, we have the assisted or attended automation, we have unassisted or unattended automation, and these terms also mean the same. I mean, assisted and attended means that those bots are built mainly to automate those personal tasks, so that a human user simply triggers the RPA bot on their computer to run under their supervision. So the monitor is on, the bot is working, the user is sitting in front of the desk. Well, I can grab a coffee and just watch what the bot is doing, but actually I do see what the bot is, how the bot is working on my screen with the applications. And then the unattended or unassisted is meant mainly for the enterprise, for the scaling up of the workflow. So if we have a process that requires a lot of in parallel running tasks or the same activities, and then what we should look at is the unattended scenario, where we can actually merge a lot of these bots into like one hub or connect under one orchestrator, and they are being managed and are running the tasks that are coming from the workflow. All right. Now, when we think about the Power Automation and the Power Platform, we actually can think about this term of the hyper automation. So before the RPA was announced, we had a builder to let us automate data from documents, OCR them, recognize patterns, entities, describe images, for example. We had the Power Automate, so it's the DPA for the Digital Process Automation, that with over 400 connectors was allowing us to simply connect a lot of not only Microsoft services, but as well existing SaaS services from the online, as well our on-premises databases, for example, and applications via the on-premises data gateway. However, what we were missing always was this possibility to automate something that doesn't have an interface. And even though, as said, we have those over 400 connectors, there are still apps that companies have in their IT landscape that are so old that doesn't have any kind of interface like REST API or data RPA, APIs, endpoints. And so the only way to actually interact with them is on the user interface level. And before the RPA arrived, all these tasks had to be done by human agents. So they were assigned a task, for example, complete this data or fill in this data in this old CRM that we have there. It is old, but it is working stable, and we don't want to change it because the change is going to cost us a lot of money. Rewriting it to something new is also going to be really expensive. So we'll better just use an employee who does this work manually. And then with RPA, we can actually say that we are now bridging those gaps. So we don't actually need a human agent in between. We can simply use RPA that replaces a human, an employee, and does this manual work on clicking on the interface and inputting data, the right fields for us humans. And then we can focus on something really more demanding and grateful. Okay, so the Winning Automation, as I mentioned, was acquired possibly a lot of days before the May. However, on May it was announced officially. And Win Automation Desktop, Win Automation actually, the tool, was and is still with us since May as a part of the RPA suite that Microsoft offers. However, during the Ignite 2020, so in October, we were said, or it was announced that Microsoft now is releasing a new application called the Power Automate Desktop. Its interface is really, really similar to what Win Automation was. It's maybe more spacious, more like white, more elegant. All the icons are changed, the colors are changed to blue, and so on. So it is like integrated with the Power Platform. However, how long am I talking? 50 minutes. However, this is just the Win Automation with a new skin, with a new layer, with what is also important with these input and output variables that helps us to integrate with Power Automate flows. You will see it in action, and I hope you will get a better understanding of how it works. And as said, this tool should be GA, should reach the GA, so the general viability by the end of this year, hopefully. Now, what do we need actually to start working with RPA from Microsoft? Well, first of all, we need a paid or trial Power Automate plan with attended or unattended RPA add-on. Next, we also need to have a work or school account to sign into our Windows, because and this account also needs to have local administrator privileges granted. Now, RPA is only going to work on Windows 10 Pro or higher, or Windows 7 2016 or higher. What is also important is that this tool, this solution, this technology is meant for enterprises, for companies. So you will not be able to use it with the educational license, with Windows Home Edition, Windows Edu Edition. It's only going to work with those business versions of Windows. Also, we need to have Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome, or even Firefox in terms of Power Automate Desktop. We need to have an environment with Command Data Service, because Power Automate Desktop is integrated. So anything we do, all the RPAs that we are creating are saved into the cloud, and they are being stored and executed. And well, obviously we need to have a keyboard and a mouse to design the bot, to design the flow. What are also the prerequisites to start? Well, first we need to go to Power Automate interface or application, then go to under UI flows, and then download the UI flows installer, which will install us the Power Automate Desktop and the UI flows. These applications will also, this installer will also install not only those extensions that helps to automate web applications, but as well it will install the desktop version of applications that are being used to automate the desktop applications. And lastly, we need to have the on-premises data gateway, which is used to actually, serving as a server. So once we do trigger RPA from our Power Automate, then the request goes to Azure Gateway, so the Azure service that is called the Azure Gateway, and then the Azure Gateway is communicated with installed on our machine on-premises data gateway, which receives the requests, then triggers RPA, and then once RPA is done, it sends outputs also through that gateway through the Azure service back to the flow. And so this is how it works, this is how it rolls. So right now, I will show you the demo. Are there any questions so far? Let me just check. Where is Teams? Here is Teams. No questions. All right, you go away. So I'll start from describing you the Power Automate Desktop. So once you go to to Power Automate, and then to My Flows, and then under the UI Flows, you will find a cool new feature or a button. I haven't really noticed it until yesterday. Called Install. And under the Install, you have hyperlinks to download all the software we actually need to start automation of our workflows, of our processes. So the Power Automate Desktop and the on-premises data gateway. Just be sure to be really up to date with all of these. They are being changed, like the new releases are almost every month. And with on-premises data gateway, there is not much that can change. However, with Power Automate Desktop, each release really brings a set of new functionalities. And then once you do have these things installed, you will notice also that there are going to be two add-ons or extensions in your browser. So the Power Automate Desktop and the UI flows. And then once you hit the new under the UI flows, you will be then able to actually start creating your workflows. And here you can select between the Power Automate Desktop, so this new version. Right, or I don't actually know about the Power Automate Desktop for Mac, to be honest. I saw the question. Yes, the support is way too embarrassing. So this is, okay, then another question is, to which type of application Canvas model-driven will it be useful? So this is not related to any type of an application like Canvas or model-driven. The Power Apps applications are actually something you can build separately. However, the UI flows are something you are using for the Power Automate flows. So this is a part of the process, not a part of the application, not the part of the application. Sorry, maybe I need more coffee. So anyway, the Windows Recorded and Selenium IDE are the old approach from Microsoft to do automation. I recommend not to use them because they are really not very much, they don't have a lot of features, and it's really hard to understand how they are working. So focus only on Power Automate Desktop. And you can either start from here, or you can actually open a desktop application and then start right from here. You have also the possibility to switch environments. So I can, for example, go into my default environment and then hit to create a new flow. Now, once I do hit create, or once I hit to edit, it will navigate me or open me the Power Automate Desktop Designer. So the different screen, which is actually focused on creating the flow. And right here, I have this left navigation with a lot of, or this maybe left tool set of all the actions I can use. And right from here, I can actually choose what I want, and then I can just drag and drop it from the tool set to the canvas, and then configure them and use. Here is this main designing canvas. I'll just show you how it works in a moment. I also have here the web recorder and desktop recorder. So with that, I can actually start recording my own activities. So the bot is going to listen to what I'm doing, and then is going to return all these activities as actions in the designer. And also on the right-hand side, I have variables. The first thing are the input and output variables, which are used to actually integrate with the Power Automate flow. And then I have flow variables, which are being created by the flow itself, so being used internally. Then I have the UI elements. So this is the repository of all the identified controls of the applications that are known to the RPA, that it recognizes and is able to actually identify on the interface. And also the repository of images. So if you are using actions that are waiting for an image or trying to tell that this image is present on the interface, then here those images are going to be present. All right, so let me show you how it works. I will start with the desktop recorder. And where it go? Yes, here it is. And so, yep, this wallpaper is not an accident. And now I'm opening the old legacy Contoso invoicing application, which is really old. And now what I want to do, maybe even better, I will start recording. And so now anything I do is going to be recorded in the action. Well, mouse movement is not recorded because RPA is not actually recording where the mouse is moving, it's recording on what it is clicking. So now I'm clicking the application. So it clicked. Now what I want to do is, for example, go into the cases. So you can see it is also recording the information. It knows that it has to click on the UI element called cases with the title cases. Now I want to create a new item. So as you can see as well, once I'm moving my mouse over the interface of the application, each UI element that the RPA is able to identify is being surrounded with this red border. So this tells me that, okay, RPA is aware what is it trying to do. What I can as well do, I can add comments to the interface, I mean, to this recording. So then I will have additional information on what I was doing at that moment. So I would say new record. And then I will click the new record. And then I'll just simply type in something. All right, now I'll save and hit save. And then I will simply close the application. All right. Now, once I hit finish, the previous screen of the Power Automate desktop will appear, so the designer, and you will see that all these steps that I've been actually following are present here. So now what I can do as well right now is I can go into variables and I can say to create like the input variable that is going to be count. So the first one, you need to as well provide those default values. You need to provide external names, so the one that is going to be displayed by the Power Automate in the Power Automate action. All these fields are required, so they have to be filled in. Then I will also create another one. I should have identified these fields with the comments. Now I don't know which was which, but I'll say email, for example, that I know as well. And what I didn't do is I didn't grab any output, because I can as well read data from screen. So I was in cases. Now what I also would like to do is to get this ID and return it back to Power Automate. So what I can do is again go to UI elements. I don't have this element here present, so I need to add it. Now navigate back, click on it. So now this UI element is identified. And what I can do right then is to go into data extraction and to get the details of the UI element in the window and simply point to that element. And sorry, one more thing. I should have done it in a different order. First, I need to define the output variable, which is going to be like var ID. And now I can simply bind this variable with this output value. So I can simply say this is going to be this var ID. And actually the same thing can be done with the web recorder. So let me just, for example, create a subflow. Now subflows are the information or the isolated parts of the flow that you can simply reuse by calling them from different areas. So if you do have a logic and you want to split it into a smaller parts, then subflows are perfect for you. So I would say test web, for example. And then, well, I can go to the web recorder. With web recorder, what I also have to do is to first choose which browser I want to use. So I'll say use the Microsoft Edge. So then it will simply call the Microsoft Edge. And then I'll go to this, for example, MSN currency converter. And I would like to change, maybe Czech, for example. All right, it seems it doesn't recording my steps. Maybe because it's not perfect. Right, so it should be also recording my steps, so what I'm doing on the interface. However, for some reasons it is not, possibly because this window, this browser, for some reason is not active or it doesn't see it. But anyway, the tools that we have are not perfect and sometimes they're just malfunctioning. So you just need to give it more time and try to work with them. If it doesn't work, you're always able to simply open the browser and then create those URL elements on your own. So not by using the recorder, but just hitting and pointing which of those elements you want to use. So now, once I have this done, I need to save this workflow and then go to the Power Automate. So now it's being saved. Then I'll go to my Power Automate and to a different environment because it was created on a default one. So I need to switch. And right here, I will be able simply to create a new instant flow. And now once I start typing UI flow, you'll notice that we have now 3 actions. So the first 2, the Selenium IDE and Windows Recorder V1 are those referring to those previous approach from Microsoft to RPA. And then in the middle, there is the Power Automate desktop action. And this is the one that we actually want to use. Oh, now I also need to use the gateway. I also need to provide a password. Now, what was the password? It's always difficult, you know. I have no idea what was the password. Maybe this one. If I cannot remind myself what was the password, I will simply use a different scenario. No, but anyway, let me just abandon this. So what I can do is to simply try if this is working by hitting here run. So this should now execute all these steps that I actually did. So well, as you can see, it's now triggering the application, going to cases, and inputting all this data that I actually provided in the first place. So the automation works. And the last step that I should do is to actually trigger it from the internet. So the point is that once you do have this Power Automate desktop saved, and it is being saved to the cloud, to the CDS, you will then be able to use it in this Power Automate desktop action. And in this action, what you have to do is first to command load. First you need to choose which flow you want to use, then to choose what mode you want to run it. So either attended or unattended. And lastly, you need to provide all these input variables. And if there is any output variable, then you'll be able to use them as data from other for other actions. Now, what I want to just show you is that I have this simple workflow here. So I need to simply upload an invoice, and this invoice now is being OCR'd by the AL Builder. And what is going to happen then is that this AL Builder, once the data is OCR'd, I am as well able to choose the currency. And then once I do hit to send it for approval, I trigger actually a workflow which first creates this fancy looking adaptive card for me, or it should just in a moment. Yes, there it is with all the details, so I can actually approve it or reject it right from here. And now once I do approve it, then the Power Automate desktop is being called by the Power Automate. So this is here actually. Let me just refresh it. So this is the workflow. So everything has been done, the approval has been completed, and then the child flow is triggered, and the child flow is actually this one. This is the child flow, so I can as well use it from different flows. And this child flow actually is just triggering this RPA. So it is actually taking sometimes a minute, sometimes 2 minutes to execute all these logic and RPA on a machine. So in just a couple of moments, there should be something happening. So if you do see this edge canary getting active, then it would mean that actually there is something, that there is something really going on. So this is the perfect time to listen to questions. I think I still have, how much time?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. Oh, that's cool. So I should be right on time. So any questions before the bot hopefully executes its logic?
That's your question in the chat.
Yeah, there was one question around the Mac OS, and then another one around the UI, the canvas from all the different applications. So this question from Jon, I'm not actually sure what you meant, because as you can see right now, this technology is not being used actually with Power Apps. It is being used with Power Automate. So to trigger RPA, you need to use this action within the Power Automate workflow. So this way you can actually include your legacy software without any endpoints into your workflows. Okay, so well, now it should start changing the currencies. Yes, for Polish zlotys, but the point why this is changing those currencies is that the invoice was in zloty, and you have to trust me, it actually executed because it opened the CRM on in a different window. So actually what it does, it went into invoices and it created this record. I know you didn't see it, but you have to trust me, it just recorded like seconds ago. But it opened it on a different screen. So anyway, first it converted the currencies because the invoice was in PLN, and it changed it to dollars because the CRM is working in dollars. And once it did it, it opened this application and went to invoices and created this new record, which unfortunately you didn't see because it happened in a separate screen. But it worked. So I'll now just navigate to the presentation and close these windows as we don't need them anymore. So do you have any questions like to how RPA is working on those UI elements, or how it's identifying, or anything around the process of creation of workflows, or maybe support for some applications, not as operating systems? If you do, you can post them in the chat or unmute yourself. I prefer you unmute yourself because I don't see a chat right now. All right. Anyway, one important thing around this enterprise mode is that once we decide to create this unattended scenario, so if you want to have a lot of bots running in parallel, doing the same tasks or doing different things, but well, in parallel, then we need to first think about this unattended and then think about the clusters. So once we create a new bot, once we install Gateway on a new machine, we are being asked if we want to create a new instance of the Gateway service in Azure, or if we want to add this bot to an existing cluster. Now, all the bots that are being added to the same cluster are being then orchestrated by that Gateway service. So the Gateway service is queuing the requests and then is delivering these requests to every available bot, every free bot that is not doing any tasks at the moment. And this is how it rolls. So you can have like hundreds of bots under the same cluster, and then this is the orchestrator for this cluster. And then speaking about the licensing, this is very important to understand, because as you saw, to trigger Power Automate Desktop or any other RPA from Microsoft, we need to use an action in Flow. And this action is premium. So whichever scenario, either attended or unattended, we are going to use, we need to have a plan for Power Automate. And then, depending on the scenario in which the flow is going to run, if it's going to be a personal flow or a company-wide flow, you need to either go into this $15, so to grant only a single user the license, or you want to go for a company-wide flow plan and then pay $500 per month. This is 500 because it covers 5 flows, but you cannot buy a smaller amount than 5. So it is at least 500 per month. And then again, depending on the scenario, if you want to create a personal attended bot or enterprise unattended bot, you either need to have this plan. So this plan actually covers you both the Power Automate plan and attended RPA. So it's $40 per above per a user. Or if you'd like to go into unattended RPA, then you need to have this $150 per a bot. Now, a bot is a single machine or just a single account on a machine, because speaking about the Windows server, we can have multiple active user sessions at the same time. So when speaking about the bot, this is an active user session on the machine. And this active user session on the machine can actually execute multiple workflows, multiple flows, but not in parallel, of course, but one after another. So, for example, assuming you would like to create an unattended bot, you need to have this $150 for the environment, and then you need to have either per user plan or per flow plan to trigger this bot. If you have any questions, ask them right now, because later it's going to be really not understandable. And last thing is that if you'd like to start your journey, your adventure with Power Automate Desktop, then the best way to do it is actually to go through the RPA in a day labs that I had the pleasure as well to co-author. And by going to aka.ms RPA in a day, you will be able to download the full package of instructions of the applications that are being used in the scenarios, of all the details and around the prerequisites and how-tos. And then you can either do these labs, do these steps on your own, or you can do this for your colleagues as well. But this is the best way to actually start the onboarding with RPA, as this simply gives you a working scenario and you can simply follow steps to accomplish those scenarios. So it's easier to learn this way rather than just reading documentation and clicking without a purpose. What is also important is that if you don't have yet a premium plan for Power Automate, you can go as well to the UI Flows tab, and then you can start a 30 days trial. And then during those 30 days, you can actually evaluate the product. You can create your own. Workflows, and well, just start your own journey. So, well, having that said, merci beaucoup, and merci pour votre attention. So if you have any questions, you can go under ika.ms/Pochetek or scan this QR code, and there you will find all the details, as said in the beginning, to connect with me.
Good. We have 2 minutes for two questions in the chat. I don't know if you have seen that, but first question from Joachim is, how are the UI elements selector generated or selected? Do we have the possibility to modify them? Is it possible to give them a variable?
Yes, of course. So when you go to UI elements, you're able to go into those selectors and you can as well modify them. And so this is the builder. So here you can see how the UI element was created, but you can go into this custom approach. And right here, you are able to give the variables. So for example, if you have a table in SAP, that was my case, for example, you have a table in SAP, and then the table, you need to just enumerate every row. So you can create an integer and then go like 0, 1, 2, 3, and simply provide this integer as a variable to the selector. So it simply selects different cells in a specific row. So yes, this is possible. You can modify those selectors and even write them on your own.
Yes, so good. Other question for Thibaut. Once published, who can execute a created UI flow, an identified M365 user or generic account? In other words, who is the originator of the performed actions?
Well, the originator is the account that is being used to sign in through the gateway. So basically, this is the local account that is going to execute all these actions. And then the originator in Power Automate, this is either the account that has created a flow or a system account that was used to create the flow. So this is like company-wide running flow. But there are like two different things. The first is the originator of Power Automate, and the Power Automate desktop run is actually done on behalf of the local account.
Okay. Other question from Guillaume. I think it's a difficult one. What are the limits of the recorder? Can I record any apps?
So today you can record any, they're called like Windows apps. I don't know. I mean, I don't know the term about that differentiate those Windows apps and those modern apps that are coming from Windows Store or the App Store. But you can actually work on all these old interface apps that you know have an installer and you need to simply click an exe file and install them. However, all the apps that are coming from the store are yet not supported.
Okay, thank you.
And
I think the last question, and we took the very last question because of the time, from Joachim. These prices are offensive. How Microsoft is positioned in this market? Are you direct competitors of Blue Prism, UiPath and Co, or rather complementary?
Well, I would say those tools are competitors already. The major difference is that in Microsoft, we don't have anything for process discovery and process mapping. However, in terms of the automation and functionality of the automation, these tools, as far as I acknowledge Blue Prism at least, are competitors. And on the other hand, the Blue Prism automation and UiPath are much more expensive than Power Automate Desktop as of today. So, I mean, for my customer, for example, it was easier to go into Power Automate Desktop, even though it's in preview. But because of the price, it was a game changer, really.
Good. So many thanks, Thomas, for that session. I will just stop the recording